Well, my name's Jacob Smucker, and I'm going to be your tour guide. And I'm just so blessed to bring you guys out on a buggy ride.
Oh my God!
Cute stuff there. And,
I like a parrot.
but I was born and raised on an Amish farm, and there was 8 boys, 3 girls in my family. So I had a lot of good times on the Amish farm. And the Amish, they don't care if you're black or white from Staten Island. They don't care who you are. To them, you're the English people. So I'm going to have to refer to you as the English people. But I left the Amish when I was like 34, which was really uncommon because the Amish, believe it or not, they have a 95% success rate.
85?
95, that when you're born Amish, you stay Amish.
That's a cow or the
You know, but when I was 18 years old, the Amish were very much that way, that you stay where you were born. I think they get that from their Catholic ancestors.
Why keep stopping?
The Amish actually come from the Catholics.
Why keep stopping?
And there was a guy by the name of Jacob Ballman, and he split off the Mennonites. I'd almost have to start with back in the 1400s, mid-1400s. There was the son of a Catholic priest, and he said that he's going to rewrite the Bible so every plowboy in the world can read and understand it. Well, with that came tremendous reformation. I mean, he had no idea what he just said, and he's actually probably the most reliable guy to know Christianity as we know it today, because the people started reading the Bible themselves, and they started getting, we call it a spasi haglava, meaning, you know, another belief other than what the church made you to believe. Because back in them days, it was almost like the Old Testament. The priest would go in, and he's the only one that could read the Bible. But, you know, in the Old Testament, the priest would go in, and he'd get a dose of the dose. A dose of the ghost. When he'd go into the tabernacle there, the Holy of Holies, he'd get the presence of the Lord, and he'd bring it out to the people. And but with this guy to transform that, the Amish and the Methodists and a lot of them Anabaptist movement people came to be, and they were severely persecuted for their beliefs.
Oh, wow.
And so they were burned at the stake, and they were beheaded for their belief. But William Penn, King George owed William Penn a lot of money, and he says, I can't pay you, but you know, if you help us build America, that'll be your payment. And William Penn loved the Amish because we had the Quakers, we had the Methodists, we had anything that was part of that Martin Luther Reformation and then the Anabaptist movement. And so William Penn promised the Amish that he would give them freedom of religion, separation of church and state, and they wouldn't have to bear arms. Well, that was music to their ears. So as time went along, they came to this area and they just wanted to live in big long lanes. They wanted to be completely separate from the world. And they didn't want anything to do with the English people. And I think with that it allowed Satan to close the mouth of the prophets to where they don't do a lot of evangelists. But does not mean they're not a beautiful and unique people, because they're always giving, they're having fundraisers. And sometimes the Amish work for the English, sometimes the English for the Amish. And what a beautiful people they really are. You know, they'll coordinate buses and they'll go down, help with the hurricanes. If your barn burns down, they'll build it in a week or two. And just an awesome people. So if you feel any peace in this area on this buggy ride, it's probably because of the Amish people being so good-natured and charitable. Whoa, Texter. Hey, we came to visit you.
Hello.
Are you a good sales lady?
Not really. What do you need?
They just wanted to see what you have here, so they wanted to stop. Not guarantee they'll buy anything, but
Guaranteed we'll buy something.
okay.
Something, that's it.
There you can see the Amishman out there. He's tedding the hay. If you're any type of Christian, I want you to pray for the Amish dairy farmer, because they've been taking a little bit of a hit. not heat-wise, financially wise. Here on the right, we have tobacco. Although there's no church rule that says they can't farm tobacco or smoke tobacco, just like the English people, it's kind of frowned upon. I know when we were boys, the Amish have their churches in the homes, and they also have their churches in the homes, their weddings in the homes, and also their funerals in the homes. And I remember when we used to go as young teenage boys, we were allowed to smoke when we were 16. We didn't know it hurt you. And we used to, before we went into church services, we used to light up cigars and cigarettes and pipes. And we'd all go stumping into the church services. We must have smelled like a bunch of burnt dogs. Now back in my granddad's day, my great-granddad's day, not so much my dad's day, the dairy farmers, the English and the Amish, and mostly farmers for the most part, they were the ones with the big bucks. But that's not really true anymore. But the Amish, sometimes they work for the English and sometimes the English work for the Amish. And the Amish are not allowed to have trucks. They're not allowed to own them, but they can lease them and get the English people to drive them. So you'll see different Amish with different carpet crews. But the Amish, they prefer to have a business at home with their families. Very family oriented. I would have never left from the time I was 16 to the time I got married. In fact, now they're starting to wait longer to get married because then they after they're married they settle right down and they get married, they settle right down and they get right busy having children, and that's just the way it works. The Amish used to have bigger families. They used to have, I know several families that had 18, 19 kids. But anymore, it's kind of like the Navy, you know, don't ask, don't tell. But I was fortunate. I went on to have 5 boys and a girl. And now they all have 2 or 3. One of them has 4 children. So I'm blessed with 13 grandchildren. And even though I'm not with the Amish, unknowingly I kept a lot of their ways. Like our family is really, really, really close. But now my mother and dad, they both died, so you know how that goes. That kind of separates the family somewhat. And then me being excommunicated and not being Amish, that also puts a little bit of a separation there. Now the only time the excommunication will affect me is I told you the Amish have their weddings and their funerals. And well, if I go to my niece's wedding, then I have to eat with you English people. Because
But English people are invited.
Oh yeah,
Welcome.
yeah, oh yeah. But
What about your siblings?
the siblings, you couldn't make them be Amish anymore because once you leave the Amish, the veil gets lifted from your eyes, and you just can't. It's really a good thing to be Amish. I don't know if I told you, they're really good fundraisers, and they really good with the fire company, and you know, they'll coordinate buses, and they'll go help with hurricanes and stuff like that. So if you do feel the presence of the Holy Spirit over some of these cornfields, it's probably because the Amish are such a charitable people and such a giving people. Now, although the Amish, you know, they go to Walmart, Kmart, everything the English people do, but I'll guarantee you, when it comes to their dress or going to church every 2 weeks, they'll put on their suits, they'll put on their hook and eye jackets, and they'll all drive the same buggy, and they'll all have the same haircut, and none of them will have white socks. And it's just amazing the way that culture thrives. There's 135,000 Amish in the world, I think, and they double every 20 years because they have such a high success rate that when you're Amish, you stay Amish. And I think that comes from their Catholic ancestors from years ago. Even years ago, like if they decided you were excommunicated, you were in for a rude awakening, whether you were English or whatever, if the church practiced that, because you did something very wrong. You murdered somebody, or you raped somebody's daughter, and then you didn't admit that you did anything wrong. So in Matthew 18 it talks about excommunication. The Amish, I feel, don't use that the way the Bible interprets it, but you know, I still love the Amish and I won't hold that against them.
When did you first meet this horse?
This horse they bought off the racetrack, and somebody bought him for a pleasure horse, and because he's gray, that's a good question by the way, because he's a gray horse, the Amish will ever hardly drive anything but a black, a bay, or a sorrel horse. They don't want to be seen as different. And, so that's the way that works. So then they got a pair of guys that always buy race horses for the Amish, and they bring them into the New Holland sale barn. And they knew that my boss, he loves gray horses. And so then they sold him to my boss for $3,500.